What's going on, everyone? It's Mike, it's John, back again. I'm just going to say it as it is. We've got an issue. Everton have got a serious issue.
Oh, shit, Sherlock.
It's now come out that there's just genuine cash flow problems. Now, this is something that we kind of knew of. We probably didn't know it was as serious as it is, or at least as serious as it's being made out to be. I have concerns how serious it really is, but for a number of factors, as we'll go into, and as you already know. But what do you make of it? Because we probably have a slightly different opinion on it, to be honest, I think.
Well, I think from a financial side, obviously, you're going to know more than me. But my take on it is, Everton in shit street, Michael. Financially, we've seen something last night. I think a lot of people seeing it, that basically everything has been remortgaged, or loans have been based on everything Everton own, apart from the new stadium. Now, that is like remortgaging your house and remortgaging your house to pay bills and debts, and you can only do it so many times. You'd end up declaring bankruptcy. Now, without 777, and this isn't me blowing smoke up their arse, and I said to Michael I wasn't going to say this today, but without 777 coming in and giving us yet again more money 2 nights ago, Everton are even in a bigger crisis without them putting money in. They've basically put money in 2 days ago to keep the club afloat. Now, whether you like it or not, it's not as if we've got all kinds of people getting in touch with Mashiri, saying they want to invest in the club, saying they want to buy the club. If the rumours are to be believed, there's really only one group in the running. Now, this group are stopping Everton and looking after from going under, basically, and helping us for the day-to-day running of the club, for the money that's got to be paid out. Now, as I said, whether you like it or not, 777 are actually helping us out. In the long term, your guess is as good as mine if it's a good thing or a bad thing. We don't know. We don't know. At this time, we don't know. But if everything that's been put out this last 2 days, 3 days, week, about Everton's cash flow, each day, there's something else coming out. Now, this group of people have put money into the club to help Everton out. Now, they are going to want it back. Michael will go into how they're going to get it back more, because he understands that more than me. But as I say, whether you like it or not, this group of people are actually keeping Everton afloat at the minute. So let's just see what they do. In long term, I don't think it's a good thing. But for now, only for 777, we're in deeper shit than what people think we are.
Yeah, so, there's some form of loan coming. I mean, there's rumours of different amounts, but between 20 and 50 million, whatever. But let's just say there's money coming to the club. What 777 will do is they're basically making sure that they're getting a business that is still solvent, that in broad terms.
Still exists.
Yeah, Everton would go into administration. That's what would happen. Everton would go into administration. There would then be, all financial ramifications. There would be a lot of cost cutting. You would find that there would be deferred payments on transfers. You would find that would be loan agreements that would be renegotiated. You'd find all sorts of
points deduction.
Yeah, there'd be a points deduction because, well, there may be. I mean,
I think it's automatic when a club goes into administration.
Yeah, but you're basing that on the EFL. It's never happened in the Premier League, so it's difficult to. You don't really know, but the problem is, Everton would be insolvent, and it means the asset that is being bought is essentially worth less money because it's ran so poorly. Now, 777 will have the confidence of buying that asset and making it better again. And me and you have got this theory that they'll probably not be the owners in 5 years, and I agree with you on that front. So what they're going to do is they'll make sure the club stays afloat by loans, which is how they can get away with it. And then what they'll do off the back of that is they'll make sure that the money is then essentially just changed into shares, essentially. You know, that 20, 30, 40 million pound would just be, you know, maybe 5 shares of the business or whatever. So they're investing before they're legally allowed to invest because they're not the owners. It's very similar to the Colin Bell and MSP loan that Everton have got 140 million pounds towards the stadium. It's simply towards the stadium, and he will be paid off in either some stadium shares or they'll be paid off by just paying off the loan, which it looks like 777 prefer, so they can have the whole asset, which means in 5 years' time, when the new stadium's there, and Everton are hopefully, touchwood, are still a Premier League club, they'll be able to sell us for more. So they're not scared of taking on the debt, refinancing it and bringing us forward. That's a positive. None of that is a negative. And you know, in the PR sense of somebody coming in and saving us, well, fundamentally, it kind of is what they're doing. But it's also an opportunity for them to look good, because what this is enabling is a group that, let's be realistic, don't seem to have a great relationship with Standard Liège. They've got a mixed relationship with Genoa, who they've recently just asked their own fans to put money towards a training complex. I mean, it's very mixed, their portfolio in terms of relationship with them. They recently missed a payment for the BBL Basketball League. So you're talking about a group of people that at best are iffy owners. They are iffy owners. The point I wanted to make, John, before we sort of went into all of this, is what has happened? How has this escalation happened? And in my opinion, because I don't know this, but it's very apparent that Usmanov had somehow a financial mechanism into Mashiri, into Everton. It's very obvious, whether that be the ownership and the naming rights to the training ground at 75 million, the USM branding on Bramley Moore before it was even agreed of 30 million. There's 105 million pound there, just 75 million every year, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a lot of money being pumped into Everton by Alisher Usmanov. The moment the Russian and Ukraine war started, he was sanctioned, and therefore his money pot he's not able to access, because once you're sanctioned, you can't do it. And that has had knock-on effects with Mashiri and his businesses. And as a result, Mashiri, who probably never really had the money to cope in the first place with a club like Everton, has had to shoulder the brunt of the financial ramifications of the war, and he just physically can't do it. And what he's gone, right, I'm stepping away, I'm done, I'm finished, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm selling the club. He's done, in that sense, the right thing. But the problem you've got is we've been run so poorly by him, by Bill Kenwright, by the board, that nobody's attracted to buying Everton, which is why we're being taken over by an iffy, at best, group of investors. I hope that explains, in my opinion, what is going on very well. But if it doesn't, I'm sorry, because I ain't no financial analyst. I'm a ginger soft brummy who just kind of thinks he knows what he's talking about at this point. I'm not the S. Yeah. I'm not the Esk. The Esk would come on here and smash it. He would deliver. Whereas I'm not bringing the milk to the door, but I'm dropping it rather than laying it nicely on the floor and knocking and walking away. I'm dropping the milk.
The problem we've got, Michael, as I said before, the way the club's being run, as you said today, the worst thing that happened was this war starting, because we all know, well, in my opinion, Mashiri's always only ever been a front for Usmanov.
Yeah.
Now, Usmanov was worth 12, 13, 15 billion or whatever it was when he got involved in Everton. Mashiri was worth 3 billion. Now, 7, 8 years ago, before all these Saudis started coming in, Mashiri was quite a rich owner. I think he was something like the the 6th or 7th richest owner in the Premier League. Now, you've got clubs who are lesser stature than Everton in the Premier League. No disrespect to them clubs, as in Aston Villa, teams like that, who are richer than Everton while Moshiri's there. So these teams that we were vying with or we were ahead of have now overtaken us because the club has been run that poor by Moshiri. The day that war started, as you said, was the day Moshiri's era ended at Everton. His hold on the club or his input in the club, as in the money side of it, just blew up in smoke. It just went because, as you said before, it looks like his assets are being frozen as well. So he can't put any more money in, but he also can't take any money out. So as you pointed out to me today, everyone's thinking about where did the Anthony Gordon money go? Where's the Moise Keane money go? And I said to you, well, they're going to try and take as much as they can out the club now. And you went, well, no, it doesn't work like that. So for people who were thinking along the lines of me, Michael explained it to me. His assets have been frozen, so he can't take money from the club, but he can't put money into the club. So all that money that has come in from the transfers, and we're all wondering where the money's gone, it's gone on that stadium.
And the running of the club.
And the running costs of the club. I sent Michael something today. I don't know how true it is. And someone had broke it down with the figures and that. And I think it worked out. It was something like £1 million a day with wages for players, staff wages, the running costs of Goodison, the running costs of Finch Farm. It works out to £1 million a day. That's costing Everton. Now, whether that's right or whether it's wrong, I believe it's probably around that with the figures that we've seen. If this takeover doesn't happen till the end of the year, how many more loans are going to have to come into this club to keep the club afloat?
So again, I'm glad you've mentioned that. So what I suspect, and again, I could be completely wrong here, so I mean, please don't keep this as, do not use this as a stick to beat me with people.
It's just our opinions of how we think it is.
It's to be honest, it's an educated guess, and to be honest, it's not going to be particularly educated because, well, I'm not particularly educated, but
or me,
especially yet. But the issue Everton have, right, is they obviously have had Moise Keane money, Gordon money. The wages have reduced. Transfer
£140 million a year Everton are saving on wages since all them players went. Yeah.
So if you base the fact that Everton's wage bill up until very recently was probably around 94 or 93% of total turnover and revenue into the club, you know that there's only 6% there for the stadium and running costs of the club. You can clearly see there's a financial issue there. So Everton have had to take a step back. And by all accounts, they've done a decent job. Because if you look back 5 years ago, where you've got players like Rooney, Sigurdsson, Klassen, all on 100 grand a week, 120 grand, Balassi, 120 grand a week. We've done a good job at reducing the wage bill. We have.
I just put in there. How are we giving players wages like that, though, Michael? Well, I'm not saying we wouldn't have been in this position, but it hasn't helped, has it? To give Yerry Mina £120,000 a week, or Davy Klassen, whatever he was on, and bringing Rooney back.
But it's like everything, isn't it? You invest this money hoping to be taken forward, and actually, what's happened is Everton have invested this money, and they've not
gone backwards.
They've shot backwards. This Everton team 8 years ago was challenging the top four under Roberto Martinez. It had played in Europe under Ronald Koeman, and now it looks like it's aiming for the championship. It's when you get your investment so wrong, and Mashiri's to blame for that. Bill Kenwright's to blame for that. Everyone that's worked under both of those people in some elements are to blame for that. The players are to blame for that. The managers are to blame for that. But what they didn't do when Mashiri bought the club, and me and you have mentioned this lots and lots of times, they didn't bring a football man in. They didn't bring a man who has been successful at the top and has managed a team that is successful at the top. And I mean managed, I don't mean the manager, I mean the chief executive. They did not bring
like a David Dean, as we said.
They didn't bring a David Dean in. They didn't bring a high-flying CEO from a club that knew what they were doing. And that, fundamentally, in my opinion, is the biggest mistake Farhad Mashiri has ever made. Because I have not actually ever said that Bill Kenwright couldn't run a football club. He could, to a degree. We saw it in the mid-2000s. We had very limited budget. We finished in Europe a few times. He got the management decision of David Moyes certainly at the start correct. We played in Europe more times than we didn't. You can't knock him for that. The difference is ownership was very different. He didn't have enough money to take Everton to the next level. And the facts are he's held on to the club far too long. And as a result, the narrative, and I don't blame the narrative, I'm actually on side of it, is he has to go. He's held on to the club far too long. And it's the same thing with Mashiri. Mashiri should have gone 3 years ago. We said it, me and you said it, he should have gone 3 years ago. The last roll of the dice for Mashiri was Ancelotti. And when that went wrong, he should have looked for a new owner because he can't get better than that. He can't get better. So, in my humble opinion, at this moment in time, the 20 or 30 million pound loan is to see Everton out until the end of the season, to the end of December, January, when this official takeover can be ratified and confirmed. Now you've got a problem. If it isn't ratified or concerned, January, you see a complete and utter fire sale. I'm convinced you see a fire sale, like a big one, in every asset Everton have got. Because the only way they will balance the books going into May is by bringing in, well, if it's 20 or 30 million pound a month, John, if it's 30 million, you've said £1 million a day. So 30 million pound a month for 6 months up until the 1st of June when the season and the whatever financial year ends, whatever it is, you're talking £180 million needs to be generated from a club that isn't self-sufficient. This club doesn't self-sustain itself, which is why it needs loans, because it can't pay its own bills on its own, can't stand on its own 2 feet. So Everton at this point, mate, they are a sinking ship with a plug put in the hole. If that plug goes, mate, they're going down. If that plug stays in and gets welded, we've got a brighter future. We've got a new stage, and we've got owners that will have a business savvy sense that will at least put us on an even footing. It won't be pretty. The players they bring in won't be great, but they will invest to make sure this team is a Premier League team. They will invest to make sure that it can stand on its own 2 feet. They will make cuts. They will make decisions. They will have to put critical surgery in place on Everton Football Club, and then they'll sell it.
Talk about the assets going. Obviously, it's going to be because we can't. We've remortgaged everything, as I said before. So Pickford goes. Anana goes. We don't sign Beto because we haven't paid nothing for him. Calvert-Lewin probably goes. And as Michael said today, then you're looking at the squad we've got to keep us in the league and a change of manager. That's what we spoke about today. These will change a manager because these are going to have to, if their takeover completes, Everton have to be in the Premier League. We have to be in the Premier League. If it goes boobies up, because we're not sweating anymore.
I don't think tits counts as a swear, John.
If it goes tits up and 777 don't get the deal over the line, then we've got to pay them back as well.
Oh, mate, honestly.
Then you've got the hearing in October, which me and Michael were speaking about today on the phone. It's massive. Absolutely massive for Everton.
So this is, in my mind, the worst case scenario. Okay, the worst case is we have the hearing in October, and they don't fine us. They don't do a points deduction, but they put a transfer embargo on us. And then the investment from MSP falls, not MSP, from 777 falls through, doesn't get ratified, doesn't, whatever. Right? So all of a sudden, you have a fire sale of players that have to leave without us having the ability to replace them. Whilst, and this is absolutely no disrespect to the younger players in the under 18s or the under 23s, but those players,
the under 8s,
the first team, and they just happened to get dicked by Doncaster 2-0 last night. I mean, to be brutally realistic, if we got a transfer embargo in October and the deal with 777 doesn't get signed, we're finished, mate. We are finished.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
you know, people are saying scaremongering, it's negative, but I can't see any other vision, light, whatever. You know, one of the things I'll argue is, and I've noticed this on Twitter, is there's a lot of Everton fans with mixed opinions all going at each other. And I've seen certain podcasts going at certain podcasts. We've kind of had it ourselves today, which is not a big deal. I've got a lot of time for the guys that sort of raise their point, but we shouldn't be fighting. We should be fighting each other. What's actually really important is that us as a fan base at this moment in time, we
stick together.
Because at the moment we're in between a rock and a hard place, between an owner and a football club that clearly can't manage itself and stand on its own 2 feet, and the unknown of a consortium group that are iffy at best. So we've got to stick together as fans, and that is the most important thing. You know, you cut us all, we bleed blue, don't we? You know, we all love the club. We need to support the club. When every home game, we all obviously need to be there. We can protest as much as we want, but the fact of the matter is, without financial injection into this football club right now, we are a sunk ship.
Like it or not, please don't shoot me down for this, because I know I probably will be. Everton are not taking this many loans out if they don't have to. Right? Michael's just mentioned the word scaremongering. This isn't scaremongering. I'm not sleeping. Michael's not sleeping. Thousands of Everton fans aren't sleeping. This isn't scaremongering. This is reality. If Everton weren't in the position they are financially, we wouldn't be taking these loans out. So it's not scaremongering. It's fact. This is fact. Everton are up shit creek with a hole in the paddle at the minute. Now, I know you can go on at me and you can say it's scaremongering, and you'll probably shoot me down for this as well, because I've seen so many people on social media, people who I've spoke to at the match, who don't want 777. Unfortunately, whether we want them or not, we need them. We actually need them. And as I asked Michael the question today, 777 are rubbing their hands together at this, giving us all these many loans. You've got us by the danglies, 777, because as I said before, there's no one else banging on the door to help us out.
And this is the thing, John. You know, I don't know if anyone listens to TalkSport. I sometimes listen to it, I sometimes don't. But sometimes I find things like Simon Jordan says quite insightful. I also find that he can be a bit of an arrogant knobhead at times, but I find sometimes he's insightful. And he clearly said that, look, any Premier League team could get sold. Like, you know, anyone in the Premier League is a sort of asset for the football, an asset, a big value item. And he compared West Brom with Everton. West Brom are probably valued at 30 to 35 to 50 million pound in the Championship. Well, if they get promoted, they're worth 150 to 200 million, which means for an investor, apart from financial fair play rules in the EFL, somebody could spend 100 million pound on West Brom, write off the debts, get promoted within a season, and still make money. Everton aren't quite in that boat because we've got ourselves into trouble in the Premier League, which isn't great. But the point I make is Everton are still an attractive proposition. And we had two people interested in buying us now. There's absolutely no reason there wouldn't be another company, another group of people that wouldn't be interested in buying Everton Football Club. But it's dependent on price. It's dependent on circumstances. You know, it's like everything. John, if I offered you a Ferrari for £200,000, would you buy it?
Oh.
Now, if I offered you a Ferrari for £1,000, would you buy it?
Of course.
There's your answer. So what I'm saying is Everton, in that sense, of the Ferrari. You try and get £1 billion from them, it's not going to happen. You sell them for 300 million, no problem. Somebody will buy Everton. And my point is, Everton are in this situation now where Mashiri is clearly happy with the offer 777 have made. He just wants out. The rumours are that they're not having to put money up front, essentially, to Mashiri for this, which sounds like it's going to be like a similar type of thing that the Glazers did with Manchester United, which isn't great. It's saddling us with more debt and then paying it off. I think, unless somebody else comes in, which we don't know about, I think this is our only option to sell to 777. I think it's our only option. I don't see any way out of the tunnel without a new owner.
I don't know if we said this on the video last week. We're all wondering if they'll get through the tests, right? What you've got to remember is they've got through the Spanish one, the German one, the one in Brazil, to name a few.
They got a points deduction in Italy.
Right. There you go.
1 point.
1 point deduction. So they've passed that, right? So they've passed them, right?
Yeah.
If they've passed them, they passed the Premier League one. I don't want to get into it with the Saudi-owned clubs, but Newcastle passed it. If Newcastle can pass it, 777, in my opinion, won't have a problem. And you know, at the minute, they're going to be our saviours. Unless someone else comes knocking at that door, as I said, and blows 777 out the water and offers to give them every penny they've put into the club, pay all the other loans off, give Mashiri his 500 million what he wants, finish the stadium, offer his 200 million pound for transfers in January, then it's going to be 777. And what I've just said there, anyone with a brain cell doesn't do that with the financial situation Everton are in. They just don't.
Unless money is no object.
Well, yeah, but there must be something in the past. Because why haven't the Saudis come knocking yet, Michael?
Well, it's because we're probably, without sounding awful, we're not attractive enough. I mean, if you look at Newcastle had this period over 2.5 years where they were looking for new owners. Mike Ashley was very adamant he was looking for new owners. Nobody really believed him, blah, 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 blah. He finds these owners, these people. He has to reduce his asking price for the club. But Newcastle were attractive because, one, they had no debts. Mike Ashley actually ran them fairly well. Two, they were one club sitter, just Newcastle. And three, you know, they've got 50.
They've got an half decent stadium, haven't they? They're not in the process of building another stadium.
52,000 seat stadium ready to go. You know, Newcastle were probably in some elements prime real estate. You know, I mean, you can talk about Newcastle as a small club or a big club as much as you want. You know, whether you agree they're a small club or think they're a big club, it doesn't matter. My point is, Newcastle do have a bit of gravitas about them. You know, you've got Premier League all-time goal scorer Alan Shearer. He's there. You've got a football film goal made with Newcastle United. You've got a football team that has always been able to generate fans everywhere in the country. They're not a small club in terms of their fan base. They're a small club in terms of their history. But that can change. That can change.
Well,
you know, it can change.
like it or loathe it, it probably is going to change, Michael, because I think
But
they've
it
got a
is.
good manager there. They've got a good manager there. They've invested well without splashing money like Man City have, for example.
Yeah,
Got a good
exactly.
squad of players. You know, they've got a good following of fans, home and away. Do it attractive. You know, do it attractive. As Michael's just said, Everton aren't attractive, and it hurts me to say that. And it hurts me to say that Newcastle are more attractive than Everton. Take the past success that Everton have had out of it against the success Newcastle have had. Yeah, Everton have had more success. But for the business and the way the club's run and set up and not having to build a brand new stadium, the streets ahead of Everton. That's why they've got the Saudi owners. We're not attractive enough for someone like that to come in yet. But, and there is a but, in 2 or 3 years' time, if 777 put us on a financial stability, the ground's finished, and we're in the Premier League, Everton are attractive.
Yeah.
We're attractive to people like that then. So you might get people knocking on the door, on the phone to 777. How much do you want? They might make £200 or £300 million profit for 2 years' work. That's what I'm hoping happens, because I don't want 7-7 here in the long term. Because as Michael said before, where they've run their other clubs, once they've had their money back, what they've put into the club, and they leave us standing on our own 2 feet, they will try and start to saddle us with debt. So a short-term fix from 777, put the club financially stable, and then investors will start showing interest at Everton if we're in the Premier League, and it's a big if.
Yeah, but basically what you're saying, John, is they're going to come in, they're going to put us on a, some people will know this as an IVA, a debt management plan. We all get the emails, if you've got more than £6,000 debt, blah, blah, blah. I suspect they'll put us on some form of that. Obviously, in-house, they will cover the payments, etc. But they will make sure that Everton are on an even footing, that in 5 years or 10 years or whenever they decide, they'll say, right, Everton Football Club, you're now worth £1 billion, 1.5 billion, whatever. And they'll sell the club whenever the optimum time to make the most money from it is, and that's what they'll do. And that's what these investors do. And without sounding awful, we're not going to be bought by people that are passionate about Everton. We're not going to be bought by people that are passionate probably about football, if I'm being honest, but I might be wrong. What you are going to be bought by is people that are astute business people who know how to run businesses. And I can't see a major negative in that right now with what we need. The only issue you do have is the one positive, and it is one positive, that at least you had with Mashiri and even Ken Wright at the start of this, was they were football men. They got it wrong, 100% got it wrong. But they are football men, whereas you've got a group coming in that I think will see Everton as a business, which in hindsight, by the way, will see us as customers, not fans. And that's
but when you look at the Premier League now, though, I'm not being funny. How many Premier League club owners support the club anyway? As a fan, it is a business now. Since it become the Premier League and all this money started coming in, it's a business. So 777 are going to come out and go, "Oh, we've supported Everton all our life." So don't expect to hear that. They won't. But I asked Michael a question today. And I said to him, when 777 come in, if they come in, do you think they'll run the club better than what Mashiri has?
Yeah.
Michael thinks they will. Even though they've got this checkered past, Michael thinks they'll run it because they'll run it as a business.
But what's important, sorry to put in, John, and this is where people are getting wrong about my opinion on Twitter, which is why I want to address it. They're not our saviours. because the club, if they went into administration or we got relegated, Everton are far too big to do a Berry, to do a Wimbledon, to do they're too big to disappear. They are. There's far too many financial things in the Premier League that Everton can do. We could sell the entire squad and start again. And us as fans, I don't think we should be seeing 777 as saviours. But what we should be seeing them as is investors and owners who are going to guide us through a difficult path and touch wood, hopefully be grateful for that, and that's it. They do their job, and we all. I don't like the fact that some people are seeing these guys as this magical golden ticket back to safety, because we're not. There's still a lot of problems at Everton. There's still lots.
Yeah. Totally agree. And as Michael said, we can't see them as saviours. But then on the flip side, as I said earlier in the video, because people aren't queuing up to buy Everton or invest in Everton, we actually need 777 at the minute, don't we? Because only for them, Michael, there wouldn't be the loan that come in the other night for the day-to-day running of the club and to pay staff wages and players' wages. Once you start missing players' wages, because we've seen it before, Michael, with clubs. Not sure if it's happened in the Premier League, but it has happened. Everton are in such a financial mess that could have easily happened to Everton, and players not getting paid, staff not getting paid, players refusing to play. Then we're losing points without even playing because you'd have to defer the points from the game that the club has cancelled and they haven't turned up to play in. So at the minute, 777 are probably keeping the club afloat. Don't shoot me down for that. That's just my opinion, because I know there's more Everton fans out there who don't want 777 than do.
Yeah.
I don't want 777. Michael doesn't want them. But they're helping us out at the minute. Hopefully it's short term. But I don't see anybody else giving us tens and hundreds of millions of pounds to help us out for the day-to-day running.
And there is some positives, John. They've come in and, they've mentioned a few things already that we've heard of. That they're going to sit down with fan engagement groups. They're going to sit down with Everton fan forums. They're going to sit down with Everton supporters. They're all positive things to say. What we need is we need a CEO.
We've heard that before, though.
We have, and this is what we need. We need a CEO that will come out and is not scared to answer questions. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to come out of the woodwork that we're going to find out about this club that we all love. There's going to be a lot of things that we didn't know that we're going to find out. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of looking forward to the revelations that will come out, because we will find out how badly Ken Wright and Mashiri have ran this club, because I think these guys will have a very clear and transparent policy of just telling us how bad it is, but how they're going to fix it, and that can only be a positive.
And when we find out these things, we're shocked now how bad it is. I dread to think what the harsh reality is going to be.
But the harsh reality would have been that, in August this year, or just after the financial year had ended, Anthony Gordon's £40 million transfer has gone towards paying for the club's running costs. Because this is another thing that people don't clock. Player transfers are usually paid over 3, 4, 5 years, aren't they? Most clubs do that. But Everton's running costs, they're monthly.
Yeah.
So this is why you're not seeing the investment in players, because technically Everton are having to save the money they're getting for months ahead.
Yeah. To keep the club afloat. And again, the new ground, and I keep going back to this new ground, because I'm telling you now, if we would have known the situation that we're in, I wouldn't have even started that new ground, because I said the other night, the excitement of getting this brand new shiny stadium on the banks of the Mersey, it's gone. There's no excitement with this ground anymore. We, at the time we started building it, Usmanov was still involved, so they did think they had the money. Now, I'm sure he can't finish it.
Yeah.
He can't finish it. So the debts are running up day by day by day, unless we get this financial help. And I dread to think what's going to happen. It's only going to get worse before it gets better, if it can get any worse. Because every day, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on social media, whether it's on the news, something else is coming out. More bad news that we're hearing about our beloved club every day just makes it worse and worse and worse, and makes you look at the board who have run the club, at Mashiri who's run the club. There's such a mess they've put us in. Breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, because you look at some other clubs, as I said the other night, you look at Brighton, look at Aston Villa, how they run. We're massive. We're massive.
Aston Villa are actually, in the current situation, actually remarkably similar to what Everton did in terms of the 3 years prior. They then go down without a whimper. They go into administration the first season or second season. They're in the Championship because parachute payments aren't enough to offset the costs. And they then get promoted by the skin of their teeth. And let's be realistic, they've not looked back since.
Look where they are now, because they've got the right people in to do the job.
Yeah.
This is so sad when I say Everton need to aspire to be a club like Brighton, and that's no disrespect to Brighton by saying it's sad. But look at the size of Everton Football Club compared to Brighton. They're a better business model. They run better. They've got a better academy. They've got a better squad of players. They've got a better manager. They've got better owners. They've got a better youth policy. It's just unbelievable how our club's being run. So, as I say, don't have a pop at us for saying a few things positive about 777, because I think the things that we've named are probably the only positives we can find from them, because I don't want them there in the long term. But for the time being, they're helping us out. They are.
Yeah. Guys, I'm leaving it there. John, been a pleasure as always.
Cheers.
See you soon, guys.
Cheers, folks.